Welcome back to Let's Talk Autism with Shannon and Nancy. We mentioned that we were going to have a couple of experts with us talking about swimming, and joining us via Skype, we have Jim Reiser, who is otherwise known as the Swim Professor, and he is the Executive Director of Swim Lessons University. And we also have Vi Hendley, who is an autism specialist from Richland One, South Carolina School. So, Jim and Vi, welcome to Autism Live and Let's Talk Autism with Shannon and Nancy.
Sure, thanks for having us.
Thank you.
Now, I want to know how you began teaching children with autism spectrum disorders how to swim.
Well, for years, we did not. For many years, we would get phone calls from parents asking us if we taught children with autism, and we just didn't feel comfortable, let alone qualified, to do it. And always felt bad, terrible that we didn't feel comfortable or qualified to do it. And in 2006, 2007, our local school district, the one that Vi works for, contracted my local swim school to teach all of their second graders, about 2,000 children. And of course, we had children with autism. And that's how Vi and I met. Within months from when we first met, Vi and I started writing and working on, eventually producing this DVD for swimming teachers on how to teach children with autism more effectively.
Okay, well, this brings up that's awesome. First of all, that they had that program, but it brings up a question for me, and we get this question a lot here. Is there a difference in teaching a child how to swim if they're on the autism spectrum? Are there different techniques that you use?
Well, surely, I think good teaching is good teaching, and when in teaching swimming, swimming is broken down into smaller steps, which is what you would do for any child and also for a student with autism. You use the same methodology of modeling, prompting, and reinforcement, and I think probably in that, short, concise directions might be a slight modification, and teaching it right the first time, not to go back and correct mistakes, but to teach it right the first time so that they learn it correctly.
And one of the things that Vi always talked about was knowing there's such a wide spectrum, and they're so different. You have differences from one child to the next. Being able to have a profile on that child. And so she and I then went to work, and she did most of the work, and she developed this student learning assessment, which we make available on our website. It's just $5, unlimited downloads. But what we do at our local school is any parent that signs their child up for lessons that has autism, we email them that form. And so that we get that to the instructor before they start teaching. So that gives the instructor that profile on the child so they know some of the tricks and tips that might help them be more successful.
Right. I noticed that you make particular note of any sensory motor issue, which I think is so important. And Vi, I'm going to ask you a question about my son later, because he has that issue, even though he's a marvelous swimmer.
Well, maybe now's a good time. Do you want to talk about it?
Yeah, let's talk about it right now. Okay, before we get into children that don't want to get into the pool, I have the opposite problem. Because I was a swim teacher as a teenager and young adult, I taught infant swimming. So, of course, when I had a baby, I was going to get him in the pool right away, which I did at about 3 months. And, you know, he naturally blew out, and I would pass him from my husband to me, and he eventually picked up the swimming, and people would freak out because this little, you know, I remember being somewhere when he was 9 months old, he was swimming around the deep end, and people are like, there's a baby! And I'm like, he knows how to swim. The first couple of years were not an issue. He loved swimming, he took lessons, but later he developed a self-stimulatory behavior that comforts him, which is splashing water. So what happened was his swimming lessons, because the instructors were not trained to work with autistic children, it would be basically a waste, because he would swim a couple of feet and then he would sit there and splash. And the whole lesson would be Wyatt, stop splashing, swim. And they didn't know how to use that as either a reward system or how to extinguish that behavior. What would you do in that kind of case?
Well, I actually have played with water myself to find out exactly what it is about water that kids with autism often have a fascination with. And it's the color, it's the sparkle of the water. I would tend to allow him time before the lesson to splash as much as he wanted, to flick the water as much as he wanted within a period of time. I might set a timer, for example. Then, throughout the lesson, it depends on the level also of your son. I don't know, what intellectual level your son is.
Right. He is high functioning, and he's 11 years old, and he knows his strokes.
Okay, wonderful. Well, then it's just a matter of, if you do your swim lessons, then you can have time with your water. Or having water play scheduled throughout his day. So he can have times where he can enjoy that it's appropriate. But it is not an appropriate time to do it while you're swimming for your son.
Right. Okay, this is what many of the ABA experts have told me, and even Temple Grandin, Shannon wanted her advice for Wyatt because it was such a issue for me, and Temple compared it to rolling this piece of metal on her bed when she was young, and her mother limited the time she did that. And that became very effective and then eventually extinguished the behavior. You're going to have to take over because I'm having a coughing attack.
Absolutely. So we hear that a lot of times kids who are on the autism spectrum, they love the water. They're happy to get into it. But that's certainly, we don't want to assume that that's every child. There are some children who are terrified of the water. And I'm curious to know what you guys do when that's the case.
So I can start now.
Okay, sure. Well, what I would do is have systematic desensitization. The ABA folks will know what that means. But essentially, you just gradually increase the exposure to water for the child. So you may start outside the pool, outside the pool fence, and then you gradually move in, doing fun things, and eventually get into the water. You would also use visual supports, video modeling, having the parents around.
And having the parents around is something we do. A long time ago when I first started teaching, we were kind of trained to, if you had a fearful child, out of sight was out of mind, and so you'd have the parents leave the room or the area. And over time, we found it was actually the opposite would be more effective. Let's face it, whether the child has autism or whether the child is his first swimming lesson, their fears are real.
Yeah.
So they're not making it up. And so I think the worst thing that we can do is take their security away from them. When I studied and came up with some of the different techniques that we use, I studied Mr. Rogers' literature. And one of the things that Mr. Rogers said is with any child, acknowledge their fears. Tell them it's okay to be scared. Don't say, don't be scared. It's okay to be scared. And it's almost magical how just acknowledging their fears and let them know that it's okay, letting the parents be there for their security, and all of a sudden those fears just start going away.
That's such an important point. And by the way, I want you to know I'm a Mr. Rogers fan too. I don't think we ever gave him enough credit as an educator. He really was good.
I agree.
So
we've had a lot of cases in the news lately.
Yes.
A lot of drownings that have happened, and that was one of the reasons why we wanted to have you guys on. As the summer months approach, we see the kids elope and they go to the water, and safety has got to be number one for a lot of us, our concern. And I'm curious to know what you guys advise parents so that we can get that safe swimming in place.
And can I just interrupt here and say, I hope you will urge parents not to put children in those water wings that I see. Oh.
Well, let me comment on the water wings. I have a number of life jackets right here, so I'm going to lean over.
Okay. This is great.
And I'll go, let me mention Tom Griffiths. He's the president of the Aquatic Safety Group. He has a program called Note and Float. And basically, if a child cannot swim, certain distance, they can't pass the facility swim test. That's typically across the pool. They should have, unless they're working with an instructor or they're within arm's reach of a one-on-one supervision, they should be wearing a life jacket, a Coast Guard approved life jacket. That doesn't mean they don't get to watch them. That's not a permission slip not to watch their child, but it's an extra safety barrier. Now, you mentioned water wings, and water wings have been criticized for a long time for some good reasons and some bad ones. But there's a new device that Stearns makes. It's called the puddle jumper. And this looks like water wings, but it's not. It's a Coast Guard approved Type 5 life jacket. Works wonders with young children in the 30 to 40 up to 50 pound range. And what's different about it is these can't deflate. What's different about it is the child, they can't slip off because they're all one piece. And then finally, it clips on the back, so they can't take it off. It's on their back.
Great.
A great Coast Guard approved device to let the child start getting some independence in the water. And what the arms do, and this is why parents like water wings for so long, is it gives somebody that doesn't have their balance in the water, it just gives them their balance. They can get vertical and they don't follow their front or follow their back, but it gives them that security. Now, this is the Type 3 life jacket. Mm-hmm. This is a really great swimming life jacket. It does not give them that balance. So in a Type 3, you've got to learn some balance, and sometimes that doesn't occur till 3.5, 4 years old. If you work with them, they can learn it at younger ages. My son was vertical and had his balance in the water with this at 2. What's great about this particular life jacket is it's a swimming life jacket. These arms, if you ever watch this child in the water with a ski vest, which is a Type 3, and it rides up like this,
yes.
Ears.
Yes.
Well, those are great for the boat because they're comfortable, but they're not so great to swim or practice your swimming skills in because they become uncomfortable. This is designed with a smaller armhole, so it doesn't ride up on them, and yet it's still, it's a Coast Guard approved. It's got the cute little fin on the back, which is great for in the ocean.
That's so cute. Nemo is darling.
Very good.
So these are great. Now, are we going to have a link to their website, on our website?
We can do that on our Facebook.
Yeah, because parents are going to be, of course, where do we get these? Where do we get these?
Absolutely.
So, they're actually available on our stonelessonsuniversity.com.
Okay.
And I do have links under useful links to the Note and Float program that I just mentioned, as well as the Safer 3, which I wanted to talk about if we have some time. You had asked about, how do we make our children safer?
Right.
Yes. Do we have a minute for that?
Absolutely.
Yeah,
go for it. That's important.
Safer 3 is a national water safety initiative. And one of the main components of the Safer 3 is it's called SAFER. So the R in SAFER stands for risk. Where there's water, there's risk. You can never eliminate the risk of the water. So because you can't eliminate it, they're encouraging parents and caregivers to ask this question: where are my risks, and what strategies can I implement to reduce those risks? Now, for infants and toddlers, according to St. Kids Worldwide, over 50% of all drownings occur in bathtubs for infants. So you never leave your child alone in a bathtub. We know also that for children, as many drownings occur in those little portable blow-up pools or plastic pools as they do in an in-ground pool. And so parents, if you are watching and you have a little blown-up pool or a portable pool, don't leave the water in it when you're done supervising your children in that pool. Empty it out. Over 50% of all drownings for children ages 3 to 5 occur in residential pools. So where are my risks if I'm at a residential pool? Is there a four-sided fence around the pool? Is there a self-closing gate? We like the Magna latch. Is there a safety alarm, like the safety turtle, on that latch that will notify adults that somebody has entered the pool? And of course, part of safer water, part of safer kids or safer people is that you have a designated water watcher, somebody that's watching the water, not talking to somebody, free of distraction. And you, of course, learning to swim is a huge component. I mean, if a child can swim, they're safer. But according to Tom Griffiths, even when you have that supervision today is getting worse. With iPads and texting and iPhones, over 70%, this is according to Safe Kids Worldwide, over 70% of all drownings occur when the child's in the care of one or both parents. In 75% of those cases, the child was missing for less than 5 minutes.
I have to say, Jim, this really hits home for me because I know a family here in the Los Angeles area where the grandmother ran into the house for picking up the phone, and when she came back, her grandson was at the bottom of the pool, and thank God that child survived, but it was a really horrific, lots of, they thought he might be brain damaged for life, and thank God he's not. So thank you. That was a wealth of information for our parents. Now, Vi, I'd like to get back to you on anything you would add specifically for parents of children with autism spectrum disorders.
Regarding safety.
Regarding safety.
Sure. As much as you can, use visual supports. And we actually have some with Swim University, the safety kids, the Safer Kids, and the Water Swim
Or Safer Kids Water Safety book, and then the Water Smart 101 video, or those visuals that Vi is talking about.
Okay.
Right. And also to practice with your children around the water. And they're also, children with autism are extremely rule bound. So if in a social script or a checklist, they learn the rules. And by learning the rules, I mean someone has taught them the rules, not just given them a book to look at or to read or to watch a video, but to actually practice and learn the skill. Oftentimes, they won't forget that, and they will follow that rule. They're rule bound.
Okay.
And so I would suggest that.
You're right, because social stories, as we know, work very well with our children. And you might make up a social story and then translate that into a set of rules. So that's all great advice, too. You all are doing a great service for our kids. Are you around the country? Is this program around the country, or do we all have to move to South Carolina, which is beautiful, by the way?
So you're welcome to come to South Carolina and visit any time. But no, Swim Lessons University is a relatively new Learn to Swim certification agency for swim instructors. And our Swim Lessons University certified programs are now in 29 actually just hit 30 states, and we're even in 9 different countries.
Okay.
And are they all equipped to deal with children on the autism spectrum?
They all have these resources, yes.
They do. Okay. Well, I want to be in touch with you later because I'm the executive director of Autism Care and Treatment Today, and we have a safety program where we provide fencing and tracking devices and other things. So I think this might be a great component to that. So I'll be back in touch with you to see if there's ways we can work together to get this resource on our website.
That's a wonderful thing. And then for people who want to talk with you further, whether they want to get certified or they're in the South Carolina area, they just have questions, what's the best way to get a hold of you? And Emily's going to put up your website again, but I see you've got a toll-free number.
We do. They can visit the website. My email link is right there on the website, and our toll-free number is 1-866-498-SWIM or 7946. So.
Okay, once again, 1-866-498-SWIM. So, we are so happy that you joined us today, Vi and Jim, because it is that time of year, and we know there are far too many tragedies out there with all children, but particularly children on the autism spectrum. So we want to commend you for working together, and you seem to both have such a passion for this. So thank you very much for appearing on our show today.
It's our pleasure. Thank you.
Absolutely.
All right, have a great day.
We're going to take a quick break, and we're going to come back to talk about a couple of quick fun things before the end of the show. So stick with us.
Hi, I'm Shannon Penrod, and this is my son, Jem. We're here today at the Home Depot.